Can you believe that we are nearly a third of the way through the high school football season? Welcome back to the Rick Corey Sports Special on a Monday. That is smiling Loren Montgomery right there, and he's got a reason to be. Went over to Sand Springs to play a really good football team and just dominated over there. And before we get into it, I think, and I think you'll probably agree that Bobby Klink's done a fantastic job with that program. That has changed the atmosphere, hasn't it, Coach?
I'm a big fan of Bobby. Bobby was a senior my first year when I was a student coach at Jinx, and consequently, I'm a Sand Springs alumni. And so I always want that program to thrive and do well. And I think Bobby does an excellent job there. His kids are always well coached. They play hard. I know he's put a lot of new things in place in that program. And so I've got a couple of friends that I played with whose sons are now playing for Coach Klink and Sand Springs, and so yeah, I take a lot of pride in the work that he does over there.
I would think so. And also on that 56-7 win, this was domination in really every fashion. I saw Bill Haston of the World say he thinks it's your best team. And I'm not going to get into that with you because I know coaches don't like comparing teams, but I don't know that there's a whole lot. And I've only seen highlights because I was at the University of Tulsa over the weekend in New Mexico. I've only seen highlights, but I can't imagine you found a lot to work on, but I'm sure you found something. What are you most happy with? And what did you find that you'll say we're going to pick on a little bit?
Well, I think the last couple of weeks, the thing that I'm most happy with is that we've got some kids that play really hard and are really physical. I think, one of the things that we have to work on is later in the game when we were up several scores, we have a tendency to lose focus. And I think championship caliber teams, I think the great teams always find a way to keep focus and find a way to eliminate mistakes, even when we're rotating backups in or guys, twos, that sort of thing. And so got a little sloppy at times and give Sand Springs some credit for that. They do an excellent job of throwing the ball around. Got some really talented wide receivers and do some good things.
Yeah, and they don't quit, even when they're down. We have to mention, and by the way, this is brought to you by Sunrise Cafe over 101st and Sheridan. And I want to tell you about something they have over there in a minute. But you got to mention Tyler Wright. 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 134 and 100. I've seen the video of the 100, and I know a lot of times when a kid intercepts a pass or when anyone intercepts a pass near the goal line, as a coach, you're excited about it, but then when they take off, you just want to make sure they get somewhere. Was that one of those, oh, no, 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 yes moments? Or were you pretty sure as soon as he caught that, he had a pass?
Well, I thought he had a chance, and then also he caught that thing on the pretty close to the goal line there, and so you didn't want any hesitation, and certainly Tyler didn't hesitate. He's had a lot of success on that field. A couple years ago, had a couple interceptions as a sophomore on that field when we played Sand Springs there, and then had three Friday night, two of them pick sixes, and so Tyler is a very good football player for us, plays both sides of the ball, and it's funny. There were a couple college coaches there watching that game, and Tyler got three offers almost immediately following that
That
game.
that's fantastic. Have you ever had a guy have 3 picks and two of them for touchdowns?
Yeah, a few years ago, we had a player, Kel Fugate, that I think had four interceptions in a game, and I think two of them were pick sixes over at Moore. And so, we have had some good performances out of our DBs, but that has to be right up there with one of the best ones.
I would think so. I've seen video too of the Braden Presley touchdown, the reverse. That was a thing of beauty right there.
Yeah, and that's a play that I actually highlighted with the whole team because what you'll notice on that is we've got our quarterback Carson Kirby 50 yards down the field, lead blocking, and Braden doesn't score if we're not down there making that block, as well as our right tackle sophomore Gavin Wilson. He's down the field working, just busting his hump, lead blocking for that reverse, and so. Anytime we're wanting to emphasize kids playing with fanatical effort or great effort, we try to throw some plays up there of our guys doing that, and that's one that would be bonus points when we're grading effort.
Absolutely. When I was in high school, our coach used to give the little helmet stickers for what they called perfect plays. And there's no such thing, I know that, but that was that kind of thing, those extra efforts, the things downfield and that kind of stuff. And those little things, we're just showing that film. Those are real motivators, aren't they?
Well, I think so, and I think as a program goes through a progression. I know, my years as an offensive line coach, if you can kind of find one guy that can play at that level, you can point it out to the other guys. And then next thing you know, you'll have two or three that are playing at that level. And I think it's kind of the same thing with your football team. We watch every snap of those guys. And so when you have guys playing at such a high level, it's easy for the other guys to see, oh, my effort's not quite as good as I thought it was. It needs to look like that. And so kind of leading by example. And so I think it just kind of creates a culture of a bunch of guys that get after it.
Isn't that what Nick Saban refers to as the process?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, anytime that you're trying to build a football team or a football program, those little wins create momentum, and momentum. We read a book a couple years ago, and it talked about the flywheel effect. Good to Great, I think, was the book, and it's a real thing. When like we mentioned, a handful of guys start doing it right, and then a handful more will start following along. So it's good stuff.
And some of those guys who follow along are guys you get a chance to play in games like this, 56-7. And one of those is Landon Burr, your backup quarterback. Now, I didn't see a lot of him, but I have heard from others who said that he put in a good performance. Those kinds of games are very important. What'd you see from him?
Yeah, doing good stuff. Landon's a junior quarterback, does a great job operating our offense, continues to grow. He's got a live arm and is doing good stuff. So he and then Reese Madden, a sophomore quarterback, are really growing, and Coach Schneider just raves about those two guys.
Who else who are backups? Because we got stars and we'll talk about them. Who else that you put in at backup had really good performances, guys you're happy with?
Well, a guy's name that you've probably heard the last name, Ben Puckett, sophomore, or excuse me, a junior linebacker, is really starting to come into his own, and he made a couple of good plays. He got in the game early. Joe Peters, he's one of our rotational guys as a nose guard. Rotates about every other series, but had a really big game. Had a sack, had led our team in tackles from the nose guard position, which doesn't happen very often, and so to see guys like that coming in and doing well. And we had a small injury in practice. One of our guards got nicked up, and so we had Jackson Dorsey, getting his first start, and he got in there and did some really good things as well. So just good to see some guys stepping up and some guys in depth positions really fighting their tails off to get on the field.
Would like to know more about your tight end, and I'll apologize that I don't know enough about him. I saw again Bill Haston write about Connor and pronounce his last name for me. Is it Arndt or Arent?
Arent, yeah,
Arent.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
a
you're
class of 2028 sophomore. Probably plays more snaps right now on defense than he does offense, but a big, physical specimen. He's about 6'5", 235 pounds, and he's only a sophomore. Is a rotational guy, every other series guy on defense, and then is also a big physical tight end. So he's getting a lot of plays as a sophomore, but during the spring hadn't even played a varsity down of football yet, and got an offer from Kansas State because they saw, what he was doing competing against some of our other high level guys out at practice.
when you see that kind of frame and body, I know as a coach, it's like, yeah, I'm excited about this guy. Where do you see his upside? Where do you see his biggest skill set? And what do you want him to grow on?
Well, I think for him, it's his love for football. He loves football. He's physical. He's a hard-nosed kid. And then he does everything right. He doesn't miss. He does well in the classroom, pays attention to detail, has good relationship with his coaches and other players on the team. And so I think he's a guy that's just going to thrive, and a name that you'll continue to hear more and more.
Anybody else pop out from the game? I know when you win like that and the rushing yards 241-8, that's just silly. I mean, come on, there's some things out there that numbers wise I could throw around, but other names you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, just offensively, have some guys that are kind of, maybe under the radar guys that have been making some really good plays for us the last couple of weeks. Nate Gonzalez, one of our slot wide receivers, also plays some corner for us. And then catcher to heart had a couple big grabs. And then our tailback, BJ Jones, he's doing some good stuff as well. We line him up everywhere, all over the field, from wide receiver to quarterback to tailback. And we're getting good snaps out of him on defense as well, and he's only a sophomore. So got some young guys doing some good stuff, and got some guys working hard to get out there on the field.
And we haven't even mentioned Connor Kirby, and he's a key to all this stuff. It's a bye week for Bixby. I'm going to ask about that in a moment. First, I want to remind you this is brought to you by Sunrise Cafe at 101st and Sheridan. Coach and I are both big fans of what Randy Robbins and his guys do out there. I wanted to read this recipe for you, though, or this dish to you, because I've had this once before myself. And no, it's not the Okie omelet, Coach. It's not the one that's covered with gravy, as much as I love this one. I had not had this one before, and I had it the other day. It's a crispy pollo burrito. So imagine a flour tortilla that's cooked until it's crispy, and then they put scrambled eggs and spicy chicken and chorizo and green chilies. And I just got back from New Mexico and the green chilies. Oh man, I might move there just for that. Avocado, cheddar, jack cheese, sour cream, and then their Buenos Dias sauce, which I don't know what's in it. I just know it's magic with pixie dust and that kind of thing. And then they serve it with fruit and their breakfast potatoes. That's just one of the dishes you can get at Sunrise Cafe. So when you think about diner, yeah, that's a little bit different. Go see Randy and his crew at 101st and Sheridan. They're open until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes they'll stay open a little bit longer depending on the crowd in there. But I'll tell you, no matter what you have over there, it's fantastic. You're going to love it. The prices are fantastic. The food is good. And, it's a great place to have like your morning meetings. You got a group of guys who get together and go talk football. I'm sure there's some talk about Oklahoma State and some other guys this morning and some other days. Go over there, jump inside, and have a great time. All right, so a bye week for your Bixby Spartans, and bye weeks are always good. Everybody has an opinion about whether or not they like them early or later in the season. First of all, we've talked about it before, but relay out for me what your thoughts on bye weeks are, and do you like this one coming fairly early?
Well, so first off, when you schedule, sometimes you're just subject to what games you can get and when. And,
Sure.
that we would prefer probably to have it after our last non-district game. However, it wasn't the case when we were scheduling that we could make that happen. And so, I think the bye week at this time is probably a good thing. We had 3 weeks of camp and then another week of preparation for the Sand Springs game, and so the guys got about a month under their belt, and so to be able to back off just a little bit with practices, typically we'll go about 22 5-minute periods. We're going to back it off to 4-minute periods. And then we'll have a normal practice week, but maybe cut out some of our meetings and some of the time that the kids are up here. And then on Friday, we'll do some conditioning. And then also our guys that have perfect attendance all summer, we call them steak eaters here. You've probably seen that, Rick.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday, Hasty Bake will bring their trailer out and we'll cook ribeyes for all those guys that have perfect attendance all summer long and celebrate them. And we're excited about it. We think it's a good week, but also maybe a week that we can heal up some of those nicks and bruises that we've gotten through camp here.
Sure. Everybody wants to get better in a bye week, and by getting better, that is physically to get better. As you mentioned, you're going to rest some guys. You specifically at this point in the year when you're having one, again, it's kind of early, and you've had great success. You pick on little things that you want to do, or are you carrying practices on pretty much like you normally would? Do you change any focus at all?
Well, our focus will go to Choctaw. We don't have a ton of film on them, but we know what they do, and so we will go ahead and install our game plan and have our normal practice schedule. I know offensive and defensively, you feel rushed just a little bit in your normal week in week out game planning, especially with our Owasso game being a Thursday game, and so. We will have a little bit more attention to detail on some of our individual work and things that we need to get cleaned up after getting a couple of game films. So we'll kind of have a multi-headed approach to this week and looking forward to getting back out on the grass and practicing.
I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I'm going to ask anyway. There are a couple of ratings out, and I know you've seen it, and it's not new right now. Rating Bixby number 2 in the nation behind a program that has been very good for many, many years, even longer than most have been. Do you try to? I mean, I know it's been mentioned. I know your kids read it. Some coaches, like Nick Saban, would call it rat poison. How do you approach something like that? Do you care? Does it matter to you in the least bit?
Well, first off, it's an honor. I've heard several people mention that to us that number one, Oklahoma teams are getting national attention. I think it speaks to the brand of football that we have in Oklahoma. I think that's great. And then that people recognize our program, I think that's great too. The algorithms that they use to come up with those things, I have no idea what they are. Because you look down through the roster and some of those guys like Modern Day or IMG or whatever are going to have 20 SEC guys on their roster, and that's not something that we have. So, and it's not something that really matters. I think the big thing for us is that, our program is being recognized as a program that's great at developing student athletes, and that's just what we'll continue to work towards and focus. Because anytime you focus on those outside rankings, accolades, what other people say, all that, I think you're setting yourself up for a disaster.
I figured that was the case. Do you even mention it to your kids? I mean, you tell them, "Hey, look, this is great, but let's move on."
The only thing we mention is don't read too many of your press clippings because winning is hard. And the more of that stuff you read about how good people say you are, the more likely it is that you're getting ready to get beat.
Renting is hard, and it's also fun. There's no doubt about that. Well, keep everybody well on this bye week, and boy, the steak eater thing. You never know. You might have other guys dropping by. Thanks very much,
Yeah,
Loren, and have a
yeah.
good week.
Thanks, Rick.